Good morning, everyone. Author Deanna L. Lawless here, and I want to talk to you about how we can still accept responsibility for our poor behaviors while holding accountable our narcissistic family system for theirs. So, let me explain this from my own personal experience, okay? So, I was raised in a narcissistic family system. It was abusive. There were two alcoholic parents. One of them was a narcissist. The other one was an enabler slash codependent. If you've been listening to my story, you will hear some of the things that transpired in my narcissistic family household as I was growing up. Okay, so there are a lot of things that happen when you are the scapegoat of a narcissistic family systems. There are a lot of traumas that you will endure. Again, mine was abuse. It was obviously every scapegoat is abused in some way, shape, or form, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, some way, shape, or form. There's going to be abuse, and a lot of the times it's multiples. Okay, so anyway, so there were a lot of abuses that transpired in my narcissistic family system. And it was not just with me. I mean, my narcissist didn't just pick on me, although I was the main source of their supply. But if anyone in the family went against anything that this narcissist wanted, then there were repercussions that would follow. So this extended to even my father, and this also extended to the golden child in the family system. But because I was the scapegoat who stood up a lot and asked a lot of questions. In fact, I can remember that being held against me, was the fact that I asked a lot of questions and that I wanted to know everything, and that I was often just told because I'm the parent and I said so. So I didn't, I did have questions. When there was something that seemed sketchy in the household, I spoke up about it. With the person who was doing it, and then of course I was immediately ostracized for questioning again. Anyway, so I, at the age of, a lot of you know that at the age of 15, I ended up marrying, and I had my first child. So here I was, a dysfunctional, a child who came from a dysfunctional family system that was generations long. So it extends further than just in my family. I'm talking, this goes into grandparents and great grandparents as far back as I can see. Okay, so there are a lot of commons that transpired throughout the generations. But my parents did sign the document to allow me to marry. I live in the state of Alabama, and you have to have a parent's signature in order to marry at the age of 15, and that did occur. So I married another individual who was also from a dysfunctional family system, whose mother was a drug addict, and also whose mother was schizophrenic. I mean, this is the woman that would, if she heard voices in the ceiling, would pull out a gun and shoot at the ceiling. So the young man that I married had also lived a very traumatic life. She had at one point been married to another man who would wake him up in the morning and beat him just because he thought that he would get into trouble that day. So every morning he would wake him up and beat him before school, so that, to try to prevent him from getting into trouble that day. And if he got into trouble, he got more beatings. So there is a lot. Again, like I said, there is a lot that young man's, the abuser in that young man's family, the male abuser in his family, the one that would wake him up and beat him, ended up also committing suicide. So he had to go through that trauma event as well. So with that being said, we were two dysfunctional people who were young and married and had one child. And then by the time I was 19 years old, we had 3 children. And obviously, when you have 2 dysfunctional people coming together with dysregulated emotions, not knowing how to be a family, never shown how to be a family, and both very downtrodden and not feeling worthy of anything, and very sensitive now, because if you just poke one spot, which are many, there's an explosion. So we ended up raising children in a dysfunctional family system. Now, I can accept responsibility for my role in that. I should have never been having children at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. I should have never been having children before therapy, before my emotions were regulated. I should have never been having children before researching what it took to be a parent. But I was young and dumb and naive and raised in a dysfunctional family system. So I can accept my responsibility for everything that occurred outside of that dysfunctional family system that originally created my dysfunction. I can accept my responsibility because at that point I was away from it, although really wasn't away from it, but I was away from it to the degree where I was living in my own house now. And I was making choices that affected my now future generation of children, right? And those choices also harmed those children. And those children do grow up and come back to you with traumas of their own and sorrows of their own. And now I have a total of 4 biological children, 2 of which are still in communication with me and have accepted every ounce of an apology that I have given them over and over again. And 2 of them have chosen to go no contact with me, of which I understand, because now it is up to them to heal the wounds that are inside of them. Unfortunately, there is nothing that I can do to help them, just like there is nothing that my own mother and father can do to help me. What they could do to help ease the pain of it all is apologize. And that's what I have done time and time again, on my face, on the floor, with tears strolling down my eyes and my heart broken, sincerely, over the fact that I have pushed this narrative also into my own children's lives, right? This is my responsibility. I have to accept that responsibility. This is my fault. But I can also go back to what occurred in my childhood and say, had I been raised in a loving, nurturing home, this would have never even occurred. My behaviors toward my children when they were younger, growing up, would have never occurred if it were not for the dysfunctional family system that I grew up in. And that is a fact. If my parents were loving and nurturing, I would have been loving and nurturing. But that is not what happened. So I can also still, with all of the pains that I've carried throughout my life from my childhood and on up, I can still hold accountable the narcissistic family system that raised me. And I can still, in my holding them accountable, request that they listen to my pains and what hurt me as a child, okay? Or what they continue to do to hurt me as an adult, even on up to last year, okay? So, but my narcissistic family system refuses to acknowledge that they've done anything